Hello, Playdate. This is Don.
This is Nick.
And I'm Ryan.
This week we are covering Playdate news,
Recent indie releases,
And even more Playdate news. All the news. So much news.
excessive amounts of news. Thank you for listening, and let's get started.
With our... You guys want to... You guys do the honor. Give us a respectful boop into the news and notes. Which one of you is going to do it?
boop, news
Boop.
and notes.
Boop, 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 boop.
Ooh, boy, Don wins that one. Nice work, Don.
I wanted to mention, because we might have group 4 and 5 people, there is a Playdate wiki, and the wiki needs help. If you are wiki focused, there'll be a link in the show notes. The wiki is pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. It looks really nice and whatnot, but it is user controlled. So hop in there if you want to add stuff, tweak stuff, contribute, get in there and contribute. Please, we don't even have a page on here. We're not really mentioned on here. So
We're not wiki worthy, though.
we're not wiki worthy. But if we were, this is where you would find something about us. But there are lots of cool games that some games I didn't even know about that are listed on here. So hop in there, check it out. Lots of good resources in the Playdate community wiki.
Even if you're not on the group 4 and 5, get on those 1s and 2s and wiki your way around there. Huh? No?
Dating yourself, Ryan. That's okay. Speaking of dates, the community deadline is approaching for the Tiny Yellow Machine Playdate Community Direct.
Excellent.
So there'll be a link in the show notes. If you have something to contribute that you think is Community Direct worthy, if you got a trailer or an announcement or something you want to get in there, the form will be in the show notes. Hop on there, get it submitted. And if you do not, that's okay. In October, it'll be out and online, and you can watch it and enjoy it, soaking in all of the announcements and new material from all around the world. Yes.
Sounds great.
Yes.
We're on board.
Speaking of all around the world.
Speaking of Don doing all the news and notes. What else you got?
Ryan, you have like 3.5 pages of notes here. Nick, what is next on our notes? I'm sorry.
Hey, you all. I don't.
I'm just gonna mute.
I don't know if you knew this, but there's a Play Jam coming up. It's
What?
Play Jam 4. Play Jam 4. It's a game jam for the Playdate, and it's coming November 10th. So prepare yourselves. Get ready to dev and test and play.
I'm ready.
November 10th.
I'm not. I would have no idea what to dev, but I'm really excited to find out what people do with it. Last time seemed crazy productive. I don't know how all this happens over the course of, what is it, a weekend? A week?
Yeah, I think it's like 3 days.
Oh my gosh. Bonkers. Okay, well, good luck to everybody. Coming November 10th. Get all that deving in before you trot out the turkeys or the tofurkeys or whatever you do. All right, Don and Nick, I'll see you in 3 hours. Let's start with the news and notes that I found, starting with Keeper getting save states and inducted into catalog. I don't know about you guys, but I got an email from old Keeper dev that said, hey, thank you for buying Keeper. We made this game with the intention of having a good time, blah, blah, blue. Well, now you can save the game while you do all that. Keeper now has a save system and a bunch of new cool stuff. So I don't know if you remember when Don proposed this for our Pixel Panel game a number of months back, and we all had a real good time with it, me especially on my 87-hour flight and just barely completing it. Heads up to everybody who's doing Keeper for the first time, there is an itch page that gives you some help. So it does not take you 87 hours. I still had a great time with it. Regardless, Keeper Dev says, we have updated the game to its new version on itch. So if you can download it again and sideload it on your console, now you can save your game, play other games on your Playdate, wait a month, and continue your adventure in the Keeper right where you left off, or start all over again. So that's really cool. That was one of our minor gripes about the game. It sounds like that's solved. And not only that, he goes on to say the Keeper has been selected to enter Playdate's internal catalog. You already have it, but if you visit the catalog, take a look at what's happening. Things are jumping around. One of them has become the new header. So there's a new header for the Keeper. Looks amazing. This like worm's eye view, force perspective of the giant building with this silhouetted character and a little key in between the words on the title. Ooh, chef's kiss. Nice work on that. And again, thanks for playing the game. I guess that was from Cool Lemon Club, is the real name of Keeper Dev. So anyway, just bouncing back to one of those games that we know and love here on the Hello Playdate podcast, getting a nice update and an induction into catalog. Congrats, Keeper Dev. Cool Lemon Club. What do you guys think?
Yeah, save system is massive for that game.
Big time.
Excellent news.
Very good game. Very good news.
Congratulations.
All right, let's move on to what I consider some really interesting information. I was talking with Scenic Route Software. This is maker of Generations, Greed, Lilybug, Shift, Post Hero, and the currently in development You're Gonna Miss the Bus. So I am very interested in stats and number of games sold. I think that our very own Nicholas Cornelius Baldridge might be as well, because he flirts with the idea of Playdate development and is interested in what he might expect from such things. And I would imagine a number of people are too. So I was asking Scenic Route about, like, how's sales going on catalog? How does that even compare to your time on itch? And I've got a bunch of numbers for you, starting with the fact that Scenic Route Software has sold more copies of the 4 paid games on catalog now than the 6 games they've got on itch. Said that he sold more cumulative copies of those 4 games on catalog than all in total on itch. I just said that. Why did I say that all over again? Who knows? Greed has sold more copies in its first week on catalog than it did an entire year on itch. Nuts. Greed and Post Hero have both outsold their itch versions by more than double. Generations has sold 3 fewer copies on catalog, but that was released in May 2023 versus its October 2022 release on itch. I was in conversation with him over the course of a few days, week-ish or so, and at first he was saying like 9 or 10 copies, and then it closed to 3. I would imagine they're equal by now. So basically you've got about equal sales for about 4 months of availability on catalog versus 11 months of availability on itch. I have lots more info here, but I thought I'd pause for a moment to see about your guys' thoughts so far on these first few stats.
What do you think, Nick?
Well, first, is it okay that we're sharing this data?
Oh,
who cares? No, I'm just kidding. Yes, of course. I checked with them before listing.
Okay.
Yeah, come on.
Oh man.
Just making sure.
I could feel Nick's sweat through the Zoom call.
Yeah, I was like,
spewing off his forehead like a cartoon character. Anyway, Nick, does this convince you to jump into Playdate Dev so far?
This experience matches what I assumed the effect of catalog would be. I don't know if you recall our conversation at the launch of catalog, but we were talking about how huge this was for third-party development, games which were not part of that initial season. It's such a huge ask, even though Panic has made it so incredibly easy to sideload games. It's such a huge ask to get somebody to go outside of the console and do something else, that most people just won't do it. So these numbers don't surprise me. And I'm really super excited to hear that they've had, such excellent success with the catalog releases. And I wish them and all the devs on itch or catalog all the best, because that it's just incredible. This new ecosystem and pioneering their way through itch and catalog. It's been kind of a lot from the outside to observe. The lack of an official storefront and now an official storefront, and hearing that has paid off in the end is great to hear. As far as developing a game, yes. I mean, if I were to develop a game, as we discussed when Catalog released, I would have great interest in releasing on Catalog, mostly for exposure purposes, not necessarily for sales purposes. It all depends on, how things are priced, but I suspect that an initial effort would not pay a gigantic dividend for a Playdate game. But it's not about the payday; it's about the passion, right? So that's kind of my thought, is just making sure that people know that the game exists, people are able to purchase it easily, and then able to interact with the game once they purchase it. So each of those was kind of a different barrier before through itch, and Catalog has removed those barriers. So that's good.
Yes, very cool. Don, thoughts so far?
Yeah, no, I love hearing these stats, and I love the impact that Catalog has had, even though we kind of know either what's coming or obviously we know when Catalog is going to update. It's still exciting to see what's on there. So it's always fun. And there's been at least like 1 or 2 games a week that we didn't expect or that I didn't expect. And so that's like an extra little bonus, which is really cool. And it's stuff that we haven't played before, I should say, that wasn't on itch previously. So
yeah, I was wondering if it was not on itch before, or we just didn't know about it because there's, umpteen hundred games that have been released on itch now. It's hard to say. But anyway, I pulled a little Frank Costanza on you guys there with this statistic stuff, and stop short because these next couple might change your mind a little bit. Listen to this. Scenic Route Software says that his game Shift lags behind itch on Catalog. He cites that a lot of people had that game already, but there's a game that's done better on itch than on Catalog. And he says if you include bundle counts and revenue, itch still wins. But in terms of individual sales, Catalog comes out on top. So I thought that was really interesting. So he's made more money on itch than on Catalog. Again, there's over a year of sales on itch versus less than a year of sales on Catalog, so it's hard to compare apples and oranges. I can only assume he doesn't have numbers for like first 4 months on itch versus first 4 months on Catalog. I would assume that Catalog's going to blow itch out of the water if that's the case, but who knows?
He's had a lot more releases on Catalog in the first 4 months too, compared to itch.
True. Yeah, he sort of had that, year and a half backlog of games to just, funnel into Panic and Catalog and over
time. I could still see that though. Shift especially was on a lot of bundles, and it was a game that was mentioned a lot in the early days. That was one of his first games, and when the early adopters were looking for top-notch games, that was one of the first games that was really, really polished, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is a must-have game." So I could see at least a big chunk of the early adopters getting it and not really contributing to his itch revenue initially. Another thing I wanted to mention is I can't believe that Post Hero only came out in May, like 3-4 months ago, and that Generations came out October 22. That means when we did our year-end show, it was only 2 months old.
I think that's right, because I remember being very surprised at your pick. One, because I don't listen to our show, but two, because it was so recent and I hadn't really heard much about it. Again, not listening to the show. So that makes sense in my mind. Anyway, regardless, just to give you some more numbers here, Scenic Route was saying that their games have been available for almost a year longer on itch than Catalog. 15 months on itch versus 4 months on Catalog. Shift was released on itch in June of 22. Post Hero was released on Catalog in May of 2023. So I was also curious about the percentage of revenue that the devs receive and asked him about this. And it's complicated, but put simply, with itch, about 90% of the purchase price goes to the dev, 90. With catalog, about 75% of the purchase price goes to the dev. So 90 on itch, 75 on catalog. Makes complete and total sense to me, especially hearing these numbers with so many more sales via catalog. I mean, essentially, Panic's created this ecosystem within the Playdate itself that makes it so incredibly easy for users to hop on and buy games, and is evidenced by these numbers. It makes sense that they would take a slight additional cut for creating that ecosystem. And I can only imagine that the devs would happily toss another 15% to Panic for allowing that to happen, assuming they accept their games onto catalog. But what do you guys think, especially Nick, with your interest in developing? If Panic takes 25 versus 10% on itch, is that going to make you upset?
No, and it's for the reasons that you mentioned, and what I said before. So I mentioned the E word, exposure there, but it's exposure for the users who wouldn't normally interact with itch. So there is a community of players who use itch because it rewards the developer more than other storefronts. And that goes across other types of games, PC games and all that kind of stuff. So, it doesn't surprise me that the revenue share on itch is higher than it is on catalog, and that's part of the deal. Is you're getting those extra eyeballs, the people who wouldn't, stop cranking long enough to hop onto itch and buy your game. And you end up having to pay more as part of that. So that's fairly typical for different storefronts. Itch is unique in its approach. So yeah, makes sense.
Okay, I've got one more question for you guys about all this stat stuff. If you had to guess, don't look at the show notes. If you had to guess, which Scenic Route Software game sold more than any other copies of their games in the first 4.5 days, what would you say?
So only games which are on both catalog and itch, or could that be post Hero?
What is the game of Scenic Route Softwares that is on catalog that sold the most in the first 4.5 days? What would you say?
I already read all these the other day.
Yeah, I did too.
Do you remember, Nick?
Shall I act surprised and say Generations?
It's not.
Oh, okay.
I guess you are surprised.
It's Four Corners.
Yes, it is. Good job looking at those show notes. Yes, Four Corners sold more copies in 4.5 days than any of their other games the first week on catalog. Took Post Hero a month to match it. Very interesting. Anyway, thank you to Scenic Route Software for being so transparent about all these statistics and allowing us to share them with our audience. I think I don't know. No, he said we could share it. Thank you so much.
Editing this episode.
Yeah.
And while we're on the topic of Scenic Route Software, guess what, guys? I got to play an early build of You're Gonna Miss the Bus. Do you want to hear about it?
Yeah, I'm jealous.
Yes.
All right, this is the new Scenic Route Software game that has been teased liberally on Twitter and who knows where else. But I've really enjoyed seeing this come together. And after our big conversation, he offered me an early play. And of course, I took him up on the offer. So this game is so polished and so smooth. I mean, you've seen the speed of these GIFs. I've never experienced any sort of lagginess whatsoever. I mean, it's the final fit and finish polish that we've come to expect from Scenic Route Software. And so I'd say thoroughly designed, immaculate, what would you say, efficiency of software. Like, it just runs so smoothly, and also wickedly difficult. So I consider myself like sort of a medium, like maybe high tier medium player. Like I can move around with some agility on games. I'm not going to win any land speed records or anything, but I consider myself an okay gamer when it comes to like platformers and moving around and stuff like that. I had a real challenge with some of these obstacles, and it really took me a minute or two to understand like where the hitboxes were located in this game, where you're moving so fast, you're running along, or you hop on a skateboard and you're going even faster. Your job is to essentially hop over obstacles or duck underneath them. And I think what my difficulty was thinking, okay, I'm over a manhole now, and I need to duck under a real estate sign or something. And so I'm going to press the duck button thinking I'm going to continue to move at that pace as my player descends. However, when you press that duck button, you need to be past whatever obstacle is underneath you, like a manhole, because if you press the duck and you're in the air over it, kabonk, you go directly down and go into it. So I've been talking about a couple spots with Scenic Route software that I thought maybe this spot is a little too difficult, a little too quick into the game, because there was like, 2, 3, 4 seconds until you get to something pretty difficult. And I recycled that quite a few times and really found it quite challenging. So anyway, we've been having some conversations about that, but I thought I would pass along some of the information to you listeners about what you can expect from that game. I also felt like there was a lot of really fun quirky Scenic Route software stuff in there. For example, you know how you were talking, Don, on Generations, how even if you didn't get something right, like you were kind of rewarded for it. There were these achievements for like not doing well. There was a point in the game where I was running along and a crow comes flying at me and I'm like, oh God, jump. And I was supposed to duck. And so basically, freight train right into this crow, and it brings up a little achievement, crow hug. And it just made me laugh after seeing that. And I thought, wow, what other little Easter eggs are in here for us all to discover? So there's a little teaser for you. I hope everybody will check it out wherever it comes out. We don't have official word as to whether it's going to be on itch or catalog or whatever, but I'm sure we'll be finding out sooner than later. So best of luck with development, Scenic Route software. Thank you so much for the opportunity to play it early. I had a blast.
Hug all those crows.
Oh man, I did.
Yeah. Sounds great. Well, thanks for sharing.
Cool. Well, I think that does it for our news and notes, which means now it's Nick's time to win the bumper of the episode award. Let's hear it, Nick. Where are we going next?
Indie inventory. All right. So Don.
Wait. Nick, you got to up your game. Don beat you last time.
Okay.
Let's hear a real respectful boop into our next segment. You can do it.
Boop. Here we go.
Perfect.
Well, it was better than last time. Good.
Are you satisfied with the amount of news you got to read this time, Ryan?
Oh my gosh.
You're good with that?
Yeah.
I'm never.
Now it's my turn to mute for the rest of the episode, right?
All right. Indie inventory. I wanted to mention. So I was thinking about like, should we put like the AAA games at the top and like mention the big releases like most podcasts do? Or I usually go in chronological order, but this week we were mentioning Life's Too Short Unhooked is finally out. $5 by Pixel Ghost. You can get it on itch or you can get it in catalog. It is here. I am saving it for a rainy day, which is coming soon. It is finally raining where I live, and I am excited to play it. It came out the same week as Starfield, but I am going to be playing it this week. So it is out. I have only heard good things, and I would love to hear more. If you are a fan of the Pixel Ghost universe, don't sleep on Life's Too Short series, but Life's Too Short 2 Unhooked. Guys, you excited? You good?
Whoop, whoop.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whoop, whoop. All right, it's finally here. And also a game that I keep championing in our Discord is Resident Tale, which
Yes.
I will put an asterisk. We were given copies by Orange Thief Games to check this out, and I played about 20 minutes. I'm saving this one for later this week as well. But it's also only $5. For some reason in my head, I kept thinking this was $12, and I'm like, oh yeah, this feels like a $12 game. But it's only $5, and this is made in pulp. The animation is super smooth. This is like a Zelda Link to the Past style game, 2 to 3 hours. Original music, and I've talked about how I don't like the pulp music engine, but the music is actually good in this. It sounds different enough where I wasn't like, oh yeah, the more pulp music. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty interesting. So it's got lots of secrets. What are some of your initial? Did you get a chance to play it, Ryan? I know Nick did.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did, but I've already spent all my words for the episode.
Yes, Ryan will be silent the rest of the episode. Nick, what were your initial impressions? I know we talked a little bit on Discord, but
So again, I'll reiterate that we were given review copies, but that out of the way, I love the music. The music and the atmosphere, the graphics are all reminiscent of Link's Awakening, the original Game Boy Zelda game. Some of the dialogue, some of the descriptions that you come across, it's just a masterpiece of a pulp game. I am really super impressed. And yeah, the music is the standout for me. There is so much of it, and it's all very pleasant and it fits within the context of the portion of the game in which it plays. So it's great. In short.
Yeah, I got a chance to play it too, and I did not get very far into the game, but it did feel like it was very well fleshed out and thought out. I found an Easter egg already in the first 10 or 15 minutes of play, which made me feel good about myself. I feel like it's not necessarily a graphically impressive game. It's got that kind of small pulp aesthetic where all the sprites are quite tiny. And I know that there are ways to, at least double up the size of your pulp sprites. I've dove into the dev forums at least enough to know that. And that would have been something that personally, the artist of the three of us would like to see a little more in terms of the artwork. But the gameplay itself, from what I was able to gather in the limited amount of time I played, felt very holistic and thought through. So that's my limited play review. But Don, what did you think about this? I feel like you've probably had more experience with this than either Nick or I.
When I talked to Nick, he might have been even a little further than me. Because where I chose to stop. Did you have something to say, Nick?
I was going to say I think I probably played it a bunch more than you had the opportunity to. But yeah.
I also want to touch on the art that you had mentioned. When looking at the screenshots and stuff, I was also like, I don't know about this art. It looks very busy. But when I was playing it, it didn't really bother me. Like it fleshed out the world, and I know what you mean by it being very compact, but it didn't bother me. I was easy to tell where the character was, and in the times when it wasn't, the game meant for you to not really know where the character was. It's like, okay, here's a maze where you're a little hidden, and then in one of the mazes there's a hedge maze very early on. It gives you like a little arrow bouncing over his head when you cannot actually see the character. So cool. Which I thought was very cute, and the maze followed a different pattern that I'm used to from playing 40 years of video games. And I was right away, I was like, oh, this is not the pattern I expected from thousands of other games. And it kind of made me smile. So anyway, I'm looking forward to playing more of this. I didn't mean to give like a full review of Resident Tale, but I did want to mention that it came out today, and I feel like for $5, definitely worth a look.
And just to clarify, it came out today on catalog, yes?
Catalog and itch.
Both. Okay, fantastic.
which is something I was gonna maybe challenge Ryan or some listener or something. I wonder how many games are on catalog that aren't on itch, because a lot of them seem to launch in the same spot. When you're doing your talk about the Scenic Route software earnings and whatnot, I notice a lot of them launch at the same time on both, and it makes it hard for me when I'm doing the indie inventory to find the itch version a lot of times, because there's like a placeholder that was months ago that is buried basically on itch. So if I don't find a link from the actual dev, I'm not going to find it really on itch.
All this to say, appreciate our show notes, guys. Go take a look at what Don cobbles together for you each and every episode.
Or let me know if you don't, so I can stop doing them. Okay, let's run through the catalog real quick. We got a lot of games, and I have no idea what time we started because we're using a different software right now. Okay, Pulse by Andrew. Yes, Pulse by Andrew Palmer. Very cool puzzle game. This might be an indie inventory pick from me someday. Not indie inventory. Pixel Panic pick. Very cool puzzle game. Slitherlink PD. A lot of people put this on their top 10. I played the demo and did not understand how this puzzle game worked. So everybody seems to love this game. I need to give it another go because I just don't understand how it works. But Slitherlink PD, check that one out. IFO. This is a Ryan game. This looks like old school LCD game. It's got leaderboards right there on the website. Check this out. I noticed today when I was looking at my Switch, this is on Switch. It's on my Switch wish list. So this is a port of at least a Switch game. I don't know if it's on the other consoles. Doink, which is like Pong, but with a lot more features and power-ups and whatnot. I don't know. It looks interesting. I'm not a big Pong guy, but if you are, this looks pretty amazing. I could see Pong being especially fun with a crank too.
Mm-hmm.
Only $3. And then The Keeper, we already mentioned. Life's Too Short, A Christmas Spirit, also joined. Catalog, it's been on Playdate for quite a while, but just in time for the holidays, $2. If you've not played it, it's a cute little heartwarming holiday jaunt. Four Corners, as Ryan mentioned, by Scenic Route Software, also joined Playdate, the catalog. Halfway to Dawn, which is only a couple months old. It's been on itch, but man, it looks super flashy and impressive on this catalog layout. So I was like, dang, I should give this another look. I have not played this. Did you guys check this out yet?
No,
not yet.
This looks like something we need to play. I don't know. It's like a Fallout adventure shooter. I don't know. A lot of stuff going on there. Looks real cool. Quantum Phantom Basketball has been teased for a long time. It is finally out by Brenda Arts. It's $5. I've heard it is a lot of fun to play. I've not had a chance to try it myself, but
is this the one that we were a little concerned about the graphics on?
The legibility? Yeah.
Okay.
But I've heard good things, and Ledbetter himself came on our Discord, said that it was a lot of fun and legibility wasn't really an issue when you're playing.
Cool. Yeah, it looks more legible than I remember on these catalog gifs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do want to try that sometime. It's an NBA Jam style game. Mars After Midnight is not out, but you can wish list it. And I did want to mention on the Playdate website, there's now a wish list tab. Oh yeah, there's a little heart next to coming soon. You can click that heart and that wish lists it for you.
Oh, that's handy.
I'm guessing it'll email you or something when it comes out. I did post a picture or a GIF or something of this game on our Instagram, and I got like 6 messages, which is a lot for Instagram. Well, what's that game in the GIF you posted? So people were wanting to play this.
I wonder if this wish list thing will ever turn into a privately accessible, meaning just your friends, or a publicly accessible, so that if somebody ever wanted to gift you something like an Amazon wish list, that they could do that. Or if this is just like user based, like only I can see my wish list, so that maybe I can purchase games for myself in the future or be notified about them. I wonder how far this wish list goes, or how far they plan on taking it.
I don't know. That's a good idea, though. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I'd love to get in there and, buy a game, Don, or buy a game, Nick. That'd be cool.
I was gifted a game through catalog this week, and I don't know that that's an option. It was from a dev, but it was kind of cool. It just like popped up like hey, you've been gifted this game. Do you want to accept it? And the tab was like, yeah, I'll take it, or something like that. The button.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's
That was
pretty neat.
that was my first experience with that too. I was pretty
Same.
amazed. It was really, really smooth. And I'm somebody who is easily frightened by technology. So that's saying something.
Yeah. Okay, so jumping into the rest of indie inventory, that is all the catalog stuff, I think. We got 3 games from let me get this. That's not his real dev name. Game Portal released 3 games this week. One of them is West Quest for $1. Another one is Dress to Kill, which is a Commodore 64 port. Maybe Nick knows something about this. And the
Ooh.
third one is Pass Problems. The only one I have played is Pass Problems, which is sort of like a Sokoban puzzle, but with basketball players. So you're passing the ball between players and trying to figure the puzzle out to get it to reach the hoop, and use the crank to like rev up the audience. It does not affect gameplay at all. If you just want the audience to scream, you
That's
turn the crank.
fantastic.
It's $1. It's super cute. It's really fun. I loved it, but I have not played the other 2. Nick, do you remember this Sherlock Holmes Dress to Kill game?
Looks like a text adventure. But no, I don't remember this game specifically. So I'm curious. It kind of looks like a Scott Adams style adventure. So
Okay.
that is one I will probably pick up.
I love
$1.
these.
Yeah.
I love these implementations of the crank that are just satisfying but have no gameplay, like the roaring of the
Yeah.
crowd or like petting of the
Right, too.
dog in Pick Pack Pup or things like that. That's very fun. Very fun.
It does say on Dress to Kill, tilt the device at key moments to progress plot. It has it uses the accelerometer and crankovision. I might buy this. I don't even like that type of game, but it sounds cool. I don't know.
You'll love this one.
Maybe. I'll wait till Nick forces it on us. And then West Quest, I don't know, it looks cool. It's $1. I don't know. I like Pass Problems so much. Maybe I'll just buy all these games by this dude. He's just been cranking them out. He cranked out 3 in a week.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they just had these kind of in test for a while, and then they all just kind of came up together. I'm curious about the development process for all 3 of these and the release
Maybe.
idea.
Yeah. Maybe he got his physical Playdate and was like, "Oh yeah, these work," and made little tweaks or something, and then
that makes sense.
popped them out.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I did mention
Interesting.
something. I think I commented something on Past Problems, and they responded right away. I don't recall. Anyway, next one is 360 No Scope by Gubba. It is, if you know what 360 No Scoping is, now you can do it on your Playdate. I haven't tried it, but it looks funny.
Speaking of games, this next one got me really excited. Stunt Copter for Playdate. This is a port of the Mac helicopter game. I remember playing this when I was a kid at my friend's house, so this made me real happy to see this come out. I think it's still in a little bit of a development stage. It seemed like when I was playing it, it kind of went on forever. And then I saw that you posted in here about the change of gravity, Don. It's cool that the dev is responding so quickly, though, because he said, hey, I confirmed there was a bug where the amount of gravity does not change according to the difficulty level. And depending upon where the game starts, there are times when the number of stages changes to be incorrect. I found that too. So he said he's working on these, on fixing those issues. So that's really cool. If you haven't given this a try, I would suggest doing it maybe in a week or so after he's got some a new patch uploaded to itch. But I had a great time nonetheless. Took me back to my childhood. Loved it. Very faithful port. Good job. Krogadelic.
I don't remember this game at all, but this is up my alley, and it was fun. But yeah, you could, once you figure it out, you can pretty much nail the jump every time. But yeah, very cool idea. And I like that
jump.
You drop off a helicopter, you jump off a helicopter.
Oh, okay.
You do a
All
wagon
right.
of hay. Yeah.
Do you not remember this either, Nick?
I don't know.
Oh golly! Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'm the only one. Am I the oldest here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Am
By
I?
by a lot.
No.
20 years or so. I
No.
think.
What, how old are you, Don?
But
Are you
you're older by a
years younger
year.
than me?
No, you're 1 year older, I think.
Oh, geez.
You're one generation older.
Well,
It's
I
not
also
a generation. Come on.
interact with the original Mac very much. So,
Yeah.
All right.
I do like that he pays tribute to the original creator in the
Totally.
little punch up here. That's very cool.
Yeah, and even in the game itself, you fire it up and he gives credit to him. So really neat. I think I read somewhere on the itch page that he was able to acquire the actual sprites from the original dev. He must have got in contact with him or something. Don't quote me on that.
He
But
died 35 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Then I lied. I thought I read that he found the original sprites or something, or maybe you just reproduce them. I don't know. Anyway, the reproduction is very faithful, and I had a dandy time. What else do we have on indie inventory?
Have you guys heard of Elena Temple before, Nick? Maybe
I have not.
Okay, I think I own this. I own this game on something, maybe Xbox. It's basically like an homage to early platformers, and so when you play it on an Xbox, it shows like a Mac screen or a old Game Boy, like rip-offs of those in like a library or something, like you're playing the game in the library. So this is from the same dev as the Xbox game and the Switch game or whatever. But this is just a Playdate version of that, and it's really cool. So I went to the devs page and I recognized a lot of his games, and this is a minimalistic version. Right now it's 50% off. It's early access, they say, but they've been doing updates frequently. So check it out. Yeah, $1 for Elena Temple. I was like, wow, I recognize that name. I thought it was just an homage, but no, it's the real deal. 55 people have downloaded it so far.
Got to get in on the ground floor. Man, I'm going to make it 56 right now.
There you go. I downloaded, have not played.
All right.
Yes.
Don, Ryan,
Nick,
have you heard of the new game from Clactic called Space Escape?
Tell me more.
I super haven't.
Okay. Ryan, I could see us whiling away an afternoon combating each other in this game.
Oh boy. I like the sound of this.
It's a side-scrolling crank-controlled spaceship simulator where you're trying to hit wormholes, basically, and avoid every other obstacle. And it is very challenging, but super fun and satisfying to play. If you miss a wormhole, then I believe, and forgive me, I can't look at the itch page at the moment, but I believe that the entire playfield speeds up to make it even more challenging. It is a great concept and very simple, very easy to understand, very difficult to
master.
Gary execute Stern. Very well. Yeah. So this is Name Your Price, and it is a lot of fun. So definitely don't sleep on Space Escape.
Indeed. That sounds truly wicked. I'll have to give that a try.
I think there was a Bit Trip game that had a similar mechanic.
Probably.
Like if you missed the thing, it would just keep going faster and faster till you hit one.
Yeah. Was that the first one, the one with the dots?
I don't remember.
I can't
keep them straight.
Anyway, I can't either. Okay. Next up, did you all know that there's a release of Colossal Cave Adventure on the Playdate?
Tell me more.
That is nuts.
I heard about that from, I believe, Gamagoat on the Discord, but it is made by B. Withers, and this also honors the original devs of the Colossal Cave Adventure. So this is just a pretty faithful port of Colossal Cave Adventure, but it does have some modern help. I guess since the Playdate doesn't have a keyboard, it makes it more challenging to interact with a text adventure like this. So the main input method is a crank method, where you're cranking through and typing your commands. But you can also switch to a verb-based command scenario, which is a lot easier to control. So you crank through your verb list, and then you crank through the recipient of the verb. So look at cottage or whatever, and that's a little easier than typing that one character at a time. this would not be my preferred method of play for this, but it is really cool that it exists on the Playdate. So if you have a fondness for text adventures and have already finished the Dungeon Man 1 and 2, why not check out Colossal Cave Adventure?
Nice. Nick, I'm so proud of you. It sounds like you downloaded and played these games. Is that right?
I did.
Oh, applause. Wow. Good job.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to make a different gift sticker for you on our Discord.
I did a thing.
Good job. Well,
so you all...
Yeah.
Let's move to Pixel Panel.
Bitty boop boop boop. Respectful boops to Indy. No, Pixel Panel. Pixel Panel time. Don, take us away.
Pixel Panel. Our Pixel Panel pick this week, our featured game is Crank Crawl by Fabian Fisher. This is a game where you take control. It's a tactical dungeon puzzler where you take control of a slot machine and you move the reels one by one. And so it's not really much of a slot machine at all. It is a randomized dungeon crawling turn-based strategy game where you fight goblins, trolls, ninja ducks, and other strange opponents. So yeah, this is a very polished game. It is $1. It's very polished in the gameplay and the manual, but there are some little tweaks that are difficult to read difficult to understand until you play a little more. And even after playing a lot, still some things that are difficult to understand, honestly. But it immediately charmed me because I'm a big fan of mobile games, and this felt like something that hasn't really been done, but felt familiar. And one of our listeners actually mentioned a game that dusted off some cobwebs. Shellman mentioned King Caching that he played on his phone, and he's enjoying the superficially similar mechanic. And yeah, I think it did have a similar mechanic. I haven't played King Caching in years, but the idea is you'll see bows and arrows and treasure and whatnot on the slot machine reels, and whatever hits the bottom goes into a little slot, and that's what you're playing. So the first 3 things you collect, that's your turn to fight the monster. Collect a sword, a boot, and a potion. You'll be stabbing them, kicking them, and drinking the potion, basically. So you're selecting those 3 things. There are some things that will harm you, like a mushroom. I don't have the manual up in front of me.
Double-headed axe.
Double-headed axe. Yes. Yeah. So some things are good and bad. They do some damage while you use them, and then obviously damage to your opponent. So you have to kind of balance what you're using. But there's also, you can't always get what you want. Sometimes you're stuck using something you don't want to use just to get it out of the way. The nice thing is when you kill an enemy, you are faced with like a little rest area. You can either sleep and gain 15 health, you can collect 10 treasures, or you can body build and collect 10 strength. And you can do that every time you kill an enemy. And basically, it's just a high score chaser. The goal is to get the most treasure. And so when you die, it'll say, oh, you killed 5 enemies and you got 55 treasure. And that's your high score. And you can start over again. And so, yeah, we had a couple people posting scores on Discord. We've talked a little bit about it, but what did you guys think of Crank Crawl?
Ryan, go ahead.
Okay. Well, first, thank you to Sir Michael Philip Jagger for that Rolling Stones reference back there and the gameplay explanation. But yeah, so this one was a slow grower for me. When I first started playing it, I was awfully confounded, and it was by the game mechanics. There were a couple things that hung me up. First of all, it's the slot mechanic. I was expecting a slot machine mechanic. It's on the title card. It's prominently featured slot machine. And when I went to press a button, like the things weren't spinning like I expected it to. It would go a little bit, or like I'd hold it down, it would go more, and like it confused me. And I was also, the second thing that confused me was where to read the output. Like I understood that I was making triplets of different icons, but like where were they coming up? Because again, slot machine, slot machine, slot machine. I'm used to reading it across the middle. So like, what am I matching up? Well, nothing was matching up when I was looking over to the right and then comparing it to like the middle of the slot machine. So for those couple reasons, I started out real confused. I finally understood that whatever spits out of the bottom of the column is what you're putting over to the right-hand side to battle whatever character you're against. Then things started making more sense to me. Then things started clicking. But I did get into gameplay at that point, to the point where I was playing it a fair number of times. And unless Nick has a surprise for me, I think I may have bested him. We'll see. But yeah, this game kind of reminded me of like a more slow and methodical inventory hero. You've got these like different things coming down the pipeline that you're grabbing to fight this enemy that's above you. It's a little bit luck based, but you're trying your best to like find stuff that's going to work. I understand it's not a perfect comparison, but that was like the first thing that entered my mind. But Nick, what did you think about this game?
Yeah, I found it pretty interesting. First of all, I would say that the graphics are very easy to discern, the individual elements apart from each other. I was a little thrown off by exactly what the stats were that were being shown in the upper right. It took me a minute to kind of parse those. And I tried several different approaches for playing this game. I was curious if you all did as well. I started off and I was trying to make matches as quickly as possible. And that really doesn't benefit you in any way, shape, or form. But it took me a little while to kind of get used to the idea that this isn't kind of a mobile match 3 puzzler or the like, where you've got a strict time limit that you need to respect. You actually do have some time to figure out what your move is going to be, which I think is a cool twist on this because of the randomization that's involved with the slot or the picking mechanic. You can totally just go straight up one column if you choose to, and I experimented with that to see if there was an appreciable difference in just going in order on one column for the entire game, or if there was really an incentive to play outside of that. And what I found, and I don't know, did you all try that at all?
Well, it's random. Why would going up one column make a difference?
Yeah, I did not try that. That seems weird.
It is weird. So it's
fine, I guess, but
yeah, it is random. But what I found is that there's absolutely no difference between doing that and just kind of going in order, or trying any combination thereof. So if you went, column 1, column 2, column 1, I didn't find a statistical difference, I should say, over a few different games, trying, and just to find the best matches or the most expedient way to dispatch the enemy versus just hitting every item in one column. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Can I make a mild amendment to something that you said?
I mean, you can just correct me.
Constantly.
I think I might have an actually to what you said. You were saying that it's not really a match 2 or match 3 component, but there is a matching component to this where if you get several in a row, like 2 axes will increase the amount that you're hitting them, or 3 axes in a row will.
I think it's only 3.
You didn't hear my my qualification of that, which is it's not like a mobile match 3 puzzler where typically those have a timed element where you need to make your selections within a certain period of time. At least I didn't notice that there was any kind of timed element.
No,
I did not find that either.
Okay.
Like I said, much more a methodical thoughtful experience than an inventory hero experience. Yeah.
Figuring out which sets of 3 items actually benefited you in any given turn was more of a challenge than it might seem, because of your constantly varying power levels. So if you're playing in a way that you happen to increase your power level quite a bit, then you'll notice that you'll have some turns where you just like completely demolish an enemy for no apparent reason, and then the next turn you're doing like 1 damage, even if you are hitting 3 identical items, 3 swords for example. So that was a little strange to me until I really started paying attention to how the different elements impact the whole. So the orb item is the one that I found the most useful, and that just duplicates the last item that you've selected.
The
so
wild
if you
card.
yeah
It's
if
the
you have a
Joker.
pair
Yeah.
of boots and you get an orb, that is like super helpful. Or you get a shield and you get an orb. So I found myself gravitating to those whenever possible. But anyway, it's an interesting game. I'm not certain that there is an optimal path because of the randomization. So I found myself very early on kind of topping out the amount of enemies that I was able to slay and the number of treasures that I was able to acquire.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That said, it is interesting in that each successive run was completely different in the selections that I would make in between enemies. So there are some where I would just try to max out power, and I happen to have a layout that allowed me to do that. But there are others, and I would wind up with 7 or 8 slain enemies every time. It didn't matter what I was doing, really. It just mattered the items that I was able to acquire during that run. And then other times I was like constantly on the ropes, and I would have to rest every single turn between monsters in order to stay alive long enough to hit that number. So at first I was worried that there wasn't a really good balance on the game, but as I got into it, I kind of found that it was so balanced that there was a ceiling that you hit really early on, and there didn't seem to be much of a way to progress past that, at least for me. And I think, Ryan, in answer to your challenge earlier, that I was basically a few under you on treasures or slain monsters. I'm not really sure. I wasn't paying super close attention once I kind of realized that I was always hitting the same numbers every time. So
yeah, it's interesting. You and I both maxed out right around the same spot, which I think was in the 80s in terms of score, and around 7 monsters or so. And I found similar things, that it felt kind of randomish, like I couldn't better myself past that point, and then it got a little bit repetitive for me then. Like I like it when I can see my skills progressing, and I wasn't able to see that past a certain point. And so then it was just sort of I don't know, maybe I'll come back to it at some time type of feeling. But Don, this is your game. We haven't heard from you much. We've been talking. Yeah. Let's hear from you about this one.
Well, I think that's where your slot machine comes in. Slot machines are different every time. They're random. They aren't built for you to win. And it's the luck of the draw sort of thing. My high score is 80, and in the Discord the highest score I saw was 91, and so that's why I was trying to hit 90 to get to be. I think Dino got 91. But the game is $1. I think if more time was spent in the AI, maybe it would, obviously be a higher price, I guess. But if there was some sort of like progression system where at the end you earn money, and then next time you'll be building your strength and building your strength. There's an end game. Like this system is cool. You can build a lot off of this. This for $1 is a pretty fun little experience, but it's a quick little let me see how high I can get, and then you're done. It's not a like I'm gonna beat the game and da, da, da. And I was just seeing, like, I thought I didn't see any ninja ducks, but looking at this thing that I thought was a snake in a hood, I think that's the ninja duck.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out, like, looking at the stats around the enemies, that it was always confused me. And I can tell, obviously, the shield is obviously their defense. If they're bleeding, if you give them a bleed effect, that's pretty obvious. -1 on their health. The other effects I'm not as confident on. Maybe the claw is they're doing 3 damage or 5 damage or whatever each time they hit you, I guess. I don't know. Same with your stats are a little confusing. Like, I can see if you have a -2, like you're about to take 2 damage, or a -8 or something, you're about to take 8 damage. I get that. But it's hard to tell why you're taking 8 damage.
Yeah.
And how to offset it. I mean,
I felt a little more clear about my own player stats than the monster stats personally. I mean, just going through the 5 of these things here, you've got your sword, like how much are you attacking them? You've got your wand, how much are you magicking them? You've got the gems, how many gems are you collecting this round? And then your shield, defense, and then fist for power. So that felt pretty easy for me to understand. I think I'm understanding them correctly, but I agree with you about the monster stats. Maybe we need to read those directions another time or 3.
I don't know that there should be monster stats besides life. In most games, they just have health. And if you're hitting them with 2 staff, then they're taking 2 damage from your staff. And then maybe that builds, maybe staff builds each time until they're dead. So 2 damage here, and then you add 3, it becomes 5 damage next time. So you decide to focus on staff, and staff keeps building. And so your staff is very strong, but at the risk of not using shields, not using anything else. Whereas sword, once you use it, 3 damage, boom, it goes back down to 0 each turn. Maybe something like that. I don't know.
I like pretty much everything you're saying, Don, starting with a way to make this game progress even further, like being able to buy things and up your levels and progress toward an end game. Again, I know this is a $1 game, so that's a lot to ask of it. But if this dev wanted to add on to this game to give it even longer legs, I think that's an incredible idea. I also really like your idea to simplify the monster stats. I don't know why none of us thought of that before, but that's a perfect example for how to make this game more accessible. I mean, we've been sitting here talking about how confusing these monster stats are, and maybe we could figure it out eventually, but like, why do we need to take 2 weeks and a conversation between 3 people to try to figure this out? It should be hopefully a little more intuitive than that. But maybe Nick does not agree, because I know Nick likes weird games. So perhaps he has a different opinion.
I don't think he liked this game.
What do you think?
I did enjoy this game. So the thing that I found that was interesting was, I don't know if you noticed, but the real positions stayed the same between runs. So if you ended with, 3 axes at the bottom of the frame, the next run starts exactly where you left off. So your positioning and your runs, your past runs, do dictate a little bit of your future success, and you have a glimpse into that as you die.
I never noticed that. That's cool.
Okay, so here's the counter to that. If you don't like that, which I didn't frequently, because I managed to create a terrible no-win situation for myself right out of the gate, if you exit the app and then come back into it, so that you have to go through the menus again, it will reset those positions.
The cache.
Yeah, so if you want to cheat like me, you can go back to the Playdate menu. I only did that a couple times, but it is helpful to know that little tip. If
that is really interesting. I did notice that between defeating monsters, but I didn't realize that stayed the same between entire games. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one last thing. Unless I'm mistaken, there's nothing that heals you, right?
So
no, that's
not correct. Yeah. But I found the healing effects to be very not helpful
What
most of the
heals
time.
you? I thought the potion and the mushroom would do something, but
The
I
mushroom
never.
hurts you.
Yeah, I know
Um,
mushroom hurts you, but I kept like using it. Then I was like, oh, I got to read the book here because mushroom's kicking my ass.
yeah.
I thought
So
potion would, but I don't have
it
it up here. But
I believe the potion does, but you have to offset the damage that's being done to you by the monster for that turn. So generally, unless you're
potion
using a
gives you
shield,
2 power.
is it 2 power? There is
Nothing
something
gives
that
you healing.
heals you, isn't there?
Nothing gives you healing. Shroom
I
gives you 4 power and
Ryan,
2 self attack.
You know what?
Ryan,
Maybe I'm thinking of shield
shield. Yeah,
because I think
Shield
it did
protects you
not.
from damage.
Right. I think it did not give us life, but it prevented us from losing that life. So
It
maybe
blocks 2
that
damage.
increasing of our health bar, which is basically negating the preview image of our health bar decreasing, made us think that we were gaining life. Maybe that's what
that
it was, Nick.
could be. It's interesting that both you and I thought that we gained health,
Yes,
though.
totally.
Um,
And you can
so
between rounds, but as far as
right.
the slot machine mechanic is concerned, maybe Don's right. I'll bet Don's right.
10 is
Yeah.
nothing
I have
though.
a
Like if you're using an axe and whatever 2 mushrooms or something, that's 5 damage.
Don't do
And
that.
you're only gaining 10. Yeah, but sometimes you have to. You're only gaining 10 health between rounds, and that's 1 turn. Most
you gain
attacks are like at least 5 turns.
you gain 15 health between rounds if you rest.
I'm sorry, 15. You're right. Either way, it ain't much.
Right.
If
right.
that's 1 turn and there's 5 turns per roughly 5 or more.
Well, that's why I think we're all kind of topping
It's not
out on
balanced.
single digit monster slayings. Yeah.
They got to keep you under that 7 monster count. Come on now.
Yeah, we gotta wrap it up,
under,
but
under 10. Yeah.
It definitely has its faults, but it's a. I thought it was a fun little quick, cool idea.
Same.
It is.
I'll come back to it. Yep.
And shall we read Dean's thoughts?
Let's hear it.
Yeah. Nick, go for it.
Okay. Dean says he pulled together some thoughts on Crank Crawl. Interested to hear from others. For a compact game with a simple set of mechanics, there's surprising strategic depth. Skipping moves to discard actions, which we didn't even talk about, did we? If you get 3 items, you can just hit the B button and then throw your turn away. So you don't have to take like a whole bunch of self damage. That's a pretty cool mechanic that I enjoyed. Anyway, skipping moves to discard actions, sometimes accepting damage in the process, is an interesting tactic. I'm struggling to balance its use, but it feels essential to advance deeper in the game. There's a heavy dose of luck involved with the slot machine, and it can feel unbalanced. I often found myself restarting multiple times until all visible actions were useful before making my first move. Even with a good footing, a strong position can quickly crumble with a wave of badly timed mushrooms. Regarding general improvements, more balanced randomization of actions and progressive difficulty would increase replay value, and a leaderboard would be fun. In terms of polish, the manual could benefit from iconography and richer monster profiles, but it's worth remembering that the game is only $1, which is incredible value for what is delivered. Emphasis my own. TLDR, simple fun, brilliant value for money. Not typically my type of game, but it had me hooked. Thanks, Don, for the recommendation, and keen to see how others are scoring. So their top so far was 6 monsters and 91 treasures, which
what?
I did not touch.
6 monsters?
I did not touch 91 treasures, but
goodness,
yeah.
You can collect 10 treasures between rounds. I did try that strategy. Like every time I'm just going to collect 10 treasures. And I always ended up in like the 50s or 60s.
That felt like a losing strategy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Chelman mentioned a similar thing to the iconography. He wishes he could jump straight to the spot in the manual that's relevant for the monster I'm fighting. It would be nice if you just pull up stats and strategies on the fly with the iconography. What am I fighting right now?
Yeah.
Cool. Man, well, sounds like maybe Dino and Chelman need to take our spots because they just said everything we said in about a quarter of the time. So yes, thank you to all of our stellar Discord members for being there, for chiming in, for playing this game with us. It always makes it a bunch more fun for us too. So thank you. Don, you want to take us away? Oh, maybe right after I tell everybody that I am still working hard on my next book. Don't forget to go to onebiteatatimebook.com. That's www.onebiteatatimebook.com. This is 20 years of my work in a gorgeous, oversized hardcover that's going to be coming this November. Please check it out if you have a moment. Really appreciate it. Don, want to take us away?
Yeah. Thank you guys for chatting tonight. Thank you for listening. You can check us out on the Discord. That's where we're probably most active, but also playdatepodcast.com. Check out the show notes if you want to see anything that we mentioned tonight. And we will catch you next week with Nick's pick, Escapeon by Digicarrot, which we've loved all of their games. So we'll see what Escapeon, what you guys have to say about that.
Neat. Looking forward to it.
Very exciting. Yep.
Cool.
Talk to
all
you.
Right. Good night.
Talk to you all next time. Yeah.
Bye-bye.